Guys, thank you so much for staying with us. I know there have been 2 busy days, and this is the last panel, but I believe it's one of the most challenging ones, so hopefully you get the most out of it. Let's do a bit of introduction, because Alex has done a bit of introduction, but I believe the audience doesn't know everyone here. So a bit of introduction. I'll be your host for the next, I don't believe it will be 30 minutes, I do believe it will be more than 30 minutes, but bear with us here. I'm Lucian Popovic. I'm a techie guy with more than 20 years of experience from hands-on coding in different technologies, but also leading and building teams in companies like Deutsche Bank, Ericsson, startups, and Deloitte. And on the side, I do have my own startup doing a bit of a product and an NGO, kind of a non-profit, Bridging Gaps, which is partnering with this event, and which is aiming to support and grow the IT ecosystem in Romania by non-profit coaching and mentoring. So welcome everybody to a conversation that's less about buzzwords and more about building wisely with AI. Our panel, as you can see, no, it's not here, but I'll tell you what's the panel name. What? As I can see on my screen here, it's Fueling the Future, How Private Capital Shapes AI Adoption, Governance, and Productivity. And it couldn't be more timely as we're in a moment where AI holds incredible power and promise for productivity, efficiency, and scale, but also raises questions around ethics, around control and unintended consequences. So how do we find and scale AI responsibly? But how do we build trust, not just performance? And to unpack this, we have 3 nice gentlemen who have done this before, building technology, investing in future-forward ideas, and thinking deeply about long-term impact. I don't believe I would do justice to introduce them, and I let them to tell a bit of words about each.
Thank you, Lucian. Hello, everyone. My name is Cosmin, Curticapean. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been employed, started my first company in '95. Currently, I'm the founder of Lendox, fintech in a Series A stage. We do a credit intelligence service using multi-agentic AI suites for and helping banks to assess creditworthiness for corporate loans. And I'm also with the board of TechAngels. I'm vice president since 2018, I think. And well, today I will be representing and I will wear the hat of TechAngels due to the topic.
Hi everyone, I'm Marius Istrate. I'm leading the largest angel group in Romania, the before-mentioned TechAngels. Since 2 years now, I'm an angel investor and investor in venture capital firms. Prior to this, I was chief people officer of a company called UiPath, and during its growth phase, and prior to that, software developer and manager of teams. I guess like many of you, leader of technical teams. Used to work in telecom engineering for quite some time.
Hi everyone, thanks for the invitation and for the patience to listen to what I'm gonna try to say here. My name is Robert Berza. I'm right now the executive director of a think tank called Edge Institute, launched a couple of months ago, focusing on accelerating digitalization in Romania. I work in digital environment for 20 years, but I'm a journalist and marketer by trade. I'm probably one of the least technical people in the room and probably in the city. But in this role of executive director for this think tank, I'm trying with our board members and with our executive team to build long-term strategies for with citizen-centric approach for Romania. So that's it.
That's good. Okay, guys. I'll ask some questions. It's not directed to any of you. It's just a public question, so you can answer. You can add on top of what you answer. And from the public, if there is a follow-up questions, let's make it interactive. It's not one-way direction of the questions. So from your perspective, and it's again open question, how is private capital influencing the pace and direction of AI adoption across different industries? Because you invest in different startups across different industries. So from your perspective, how do you see that?
Private capital is a ticket to play the game, if I may use a metaphor. So without private capital, especially in a country like Romania that deploys very little capital to research and innovation in the public sector, you're not playing in the arena. So this is what private capital is. Whether it's money from business angels or venture capital or private equity, private capital gives you the right to play the game, to be part of the game, and to try at least to have an opinion and exert some influence into the direction that this is going. This is what private capital is. What private capital isn't, I think that's also important. And I'm actually curious to hear your thoughts on this. But private capital by definition is not ethical or not ethical, right? Or unethical. I don't think that private capital has by default associated to it an ethical dimension. Private investors like myself, like others, like our colleagues in TechAngels, all of them, when they invest, when they put money out of their pocket into a startup, they do so with the intention to support something good, right? That pushes or benefits people in some shape or form. So I don't think that it's the fact that I pay a ticket to play the game gives me the right to then go and influence the founder in the decisions that he or she has to make with regards to their own customers. I think the founder or the executive team in that business that I finance needs to have full freedom to act on that.
That's nice.
There are different types of private capital. So when we talk about AI and technologies, then we have to refer to the risk capital, to the venture capital. And this is specifically designed to fuel developments. Now, I totally agree with Marius, but in my opinion, private capital and venture capital should have at least one characteristics of ethics, and especially because we see the speed of technology, and it's possible that it will help the species, but it might left aside some individuals, and then I think any individual counts. Therefore, I think there should be a governance throughout which this private capital should flow towards models that have this component and to have this eye on building sustainable. And what we see now, it's two arenas, Marius mentioned already. We have a lot of things that are happening in Europe, and even competing some technologies from the United States. But we have these two arenas. In the United States, you have this growth and acceleration with all costs. So everything is on the side of growth and the species, and then progress. And then on the other side, you have Europe that it's a little bit more sustainable, is looking to regulate stuff. It's a bit slower. I don't know. I think I'm a bigger fan of the second one.
I think there are maybe 2 days since we have a kind of new optimism around here, at least in the city.
As you can see, I'm wearing only blue. I just missed some golden stars for the European Union flag.
Well, that's great. And all the people in the room are probably trying to increase efficiency and productivity with their products, and increase number of clients and revenues and so on. So it's growth, and it's already on a healthy foundation for sure. When you jump in the other boat, because there is the second market, so you said arena, so there is let's say the arena you guys are playing, and then there is the economy where the state is kind of choosing partners and projects and priorities. In that arena, the presentation that I think Radek was doing earlier is science fiction. I mean, improving the speed and the priority of tasks, it's something that in Bucharest, it's still in inception. The mayors, there are like 7 mayors in Romania, and there are 7 teams in Bucharest, sorry. They have totally different needs than this kind of race for speed. So it's more about foundation, and I would go why I started with this introduction, because it's maybe 2 days from the election can be a new T0 moment where practically private capital and private companies and state are gonna start a new route where the partnerships between them will become first cool. Today has a bad PR. If you ask people around here, at least in Romania, maybe also in the region, private and state partnerships, that's usually a word. It's corruption in their minds. So you first have to make it cool. Then they would attract good energy and obviously good money, and also you have to build products around it. So I would say that it can be a good start first to try to conquer that arena, not only create a higher and better competition in the kind of private economy arena where probably all the guys here are doing a great job.
Robert, I have 2 follow-up questions, because you mentioned productivity on AI, but also public-private cooperation. But I'll stay to the latter one. How do public-private partnerships play into the future of AI adoption, heavily regulated sectors or mission-critical sectors? Because I believe it's kind of a pushback at some point in time.
I would say that in order to create a lot of trouble, first it has to create a lot of let's say wealth and efficiency. I mean, we can talk about very complicated or complex tasks, but first coming back, we spent time in the last months talking to local and central authorities. We've been involved in a lot of discussion, and we saw what happens there. And there are departments in huge mayorships that don't know tasks from one point to another. So in that area, we are not talking about. I mean, first let's again build a foundation, improve it a lot, sell it to the citizen as a positive impact, and then we're gonna have to try to talk more about regulation and so on. But first, we have to have the same approach that the private companies are doing. They first have to grow. They have to grow the customer base, have to grow the complexity of the business, and then once this growth is kind of reaching a ceiling, then you start to have different type of conversation. The state today in Romania is way beyond this curve, and it's every probably one is interested in this room that market will have to be opened, and there are serious money and obviously a lot of citizen-centric projects that can really impact country.
The question is for everybody, by the way.
Yeah, let's make it clear first. Basically, the venture capital is usually it's not regional. It's investing in global companies from day one, from early stage. So this is the one that is fueling the development of the technology. Now then, when we talk about private capital in general and governance and governance and state, then it's another track where, of course, private capital can start being involved in different manners in order to maybe also improve the administrations. On the other hand, I think this is something that is not only necessarily Romanian, although we are way behind from the perspective of adoption, especially from the real economy, as well as the administrations, public administrations of digital tools and digitalization. We are way behind because Marius already mentioned we are not really funding innovation, we are not funding incubators, we don't have enough let's say capital for that extremely early pre-seed stage. And when we talk about adoption in highly regulated environments, then we can see even banking system, where I'm, for example, very familiar with, is not necessarily something that goes, or it's a mentality. It's a state of, basically it's a state of mind of the people. It's very difficult to adopt, even if you have technologies. We have to, for example, when we sell to banks, it's very difficult for users to go away from the pen and paper and WhatsApp to a tool, to a technology, and it takes some effort from the organizations to go and try to move this current.
Mhm.
I don't have much to add to what has already been said. I think it's very relevant. I'll just invite you to think of this in the following way, because I have this instinct as a, red-blooded evil venture capitalist. Of course, what I care about is, multiplying capital, deploying capital into businesses that, have great opportunities and multiplying that capital. But I also have to wake up every morning, take my kid to school, take my kid back from school, fingers crossed that school is good, that the infrastructure to get there and back will serve me, that public services function. So I think in this relationship that we're trying to describe here between private capital, public interest, public services, all of us are citizens. Ultimately, we need to care about this. I think talking about it is already a great first step. Yes, the state is a laggard. So I agree with that statement. I'll say this, however, not to make a comparison to make, to shame somebody or not. It's not about that. But there are countries in this world where the state is a partner by default in those very, very early stages that Cosmin was mentioning. So, private capital in its current form and shape in Romania can ensure that we have a place at the table when the change happens. But in reality, you'd want to have not a place, not a seat like this, but a throne at the table. And that comes through academic research. That comes through a lot more effort at the very, very foundation of where science and technology happen. And we're not doing that today. Unfortunately. And I think, and I'm closing the loop now, as citizens, not as an investor, but as citizens, I think we should care about that dimension. Also, what's going on in our academic world.
Okay.
And to move the table from out of the arena in the arena, so the table that we were at.
Cosmin, you mentioned the concept mindset. You mentioned the mindset. So, in your experience, what's more important in scaling AI, in innovation, technology readiness or leadership mindset?
Well, I think it's both, and there is a lot more required. There is a lot more required to do it. But when AI became commodity and it went out of hype, we had.
Is it a commodity, or because I still believe it's a bit of a hype?
I don't think so. It's
Okay.
it's at the fingertips of everyone. So lots of people are using it. So currently, it's so easy to use.
Let's do
AI.
a survey.
Yeah.
Who doesn't have any AI app on their phone? So no Perplexity, no ChatGPT, no LeChat by Mistral, nothing. Please raise your hand if you have absolutely no AI app on your phone.
Oh, there is one.
We have five.
Oh, okay.
Go out of the room. Sorry, it was a joke.
It wasn't a judgmental survey. It was just to try and determine. Please don't feel in any way.
No, it's infrastructure. It's commodity. It's adoptable. It's easy. So it's mindset. At the end. Yeah, it's cheap. It's everything. So you need to use it. I mean, it's just the mindset. It's just how you can become creative in order to use it, to put it to work in your service or in the service of others or of the company that you're working for. It's the mindset.
Okay.
As I said, I'm not a technical guy, so I'll say leadership. Kidding aside, I mean, I try to be smart and prepare my answers for calls like this, but I go back to what can be done. So one of the answers for the previous question is that we could build open innovation ecosystems where government hosted sandboxes or AI labs, where startups and researchers from academia can work with public data, blah blah blah. So this obviously is something that would make sense. Yeah, probably a lot of the people in the room would say, okay, so maybe in Iași or whatever, Cluj, you're going to have this kind of huge AE lab where 23 small startups funded by government and also European funds and Horizon funds and so on would work. So we would easily imagine that. Who the hell starts the conversation with that? Who says, we're going to have to do this? Who builds a team that kind of builds this project, not necessarily, who selects the 23 companies there, who kind of helps them create a framework of giving them, some kind of consultancy on different areas, and also pitch them to different maybe yes citizen-centric kind of possibilities. So this is why I come to the leadership, because you somehow, at least at the state, if we talk about public services and public local or central administration, you need leadership. And there are countries, as we've been in Estonia a couple of weeks ago, I'm going to go next week there. There are several countries in Europe where this leadership kind of activated a vision 20 years ago or 15 years ago in kind of a digital transformation, and now AI just floats through it natural, kind of naturally. Yeah. And yes, we are couple of years late, but one of the huge advantages of these technologies that move that fast is that you can gain very fast the lost time. I mean, in order to be equal to Estonia implementing a lot of AI solutions for citizens, we probably need, 2 or 3 years with a strong leadership and vision. Because AI for them was something new 2 or 3 years ago, and they have huge legacy, and their digital teams are gonna fight to keep their solutions and so on. So you have a huge advantage when new waves appear, but you need a new vision and a kind of new leadership. And as I said, it's 36 hours since we have a new one. Let's hope that this time it will work.
I'm gonna add some color to this, which is about technological leadership. I don't think leadership is as important as you think.
Ooh, that's interesting.
I think the technological readiness is 100% of it, in my view, and I'll explain why.
I'm alive.
AI, for me, is more like the telecom or the deployment of internet. It's not just a technology that's a piece of software. So Estonia may be very well running AI to improve citizen services, but on whose infrastructure? On whose data centers? Where are the GPUs that are powering that AI?
But I agree with that
that is a very important question.
There should be public and private partnership, and obviously the telco and the banking have to be there, and everyone running on big data.
Let's go a step back. I mean, any technology has, any new technology has a certain characteristic, or has to have a product fit to market. And this is when this technology hits the market and it's offering appeal to some pains of the people. It doesn't matter administration or anywhere else. And then there is a large adoption, and then you have the infrastructure. Then the adoption goes very fast in all the layers of the society, including.
To talk about it, honestly, I'm being a little bit mean here, but intentionally for the scope of this conversation. Who cares? Who cares about the leadership? What? We're not going to use AI because what? Because the elected president tells us not to? I mean, or because the elected president tells us AI is inherently evil or whatever? Or if the other guy got elected and if he told us AI is evil, we would all uninstall Perplexity from our phones?
I heard some people that vote because the earth is flat.
Come on, we're rational people here. I think leadership counts as an inspiration for us on the type of society we want to build. But I think all of us, at least the people here in this room, we need to be aware. This change is happening. It's not a question of if. It's like nobody asked you if you want to switch from 3G to 4G, did they? Did you have a vote in switching from 3G to 4G? Did you have a vote in switching from 4G to 5G? That technological change happens every 10 to 12 years on a very well prescribed mechanism and framework because there is a capital structure involved in deploying that new technology, because companies that deploy it need to recover the capital that they invested and some profit, right? The same thing is happening with AI. It has a huge capex, huge expenditure, a capital expenditure structure, right? We will be looking at how to deploy it safely in a manner that will, in a manner that will also serve citizens, but be on, sovereign territory, where you can have some level of control over it. And guess what? That makes it expensive, and that makes the investment cycle long. And that means this change that is already happening, we're in it for, to be served for the next 10, 15 years. So I think the technological readiness, in the sense of acknowledging that this is more similar to telecom than to adopting enterprise software. I'm saying this because in the example that you gave, it sounded very much like a software play. And it isn't a software play.
It's not technical.
It's a very deep hardware play, first of all, and a very expensive hardware play at that, right? So I think technological readiness, to your question, that's a very long answer. The question of leadership.
Yeah, I'll just follow up, because my intention was to say that if Romania wants to be really strong in AI in terms of companies and want to be a regional player and a regional champion,
global
or global one, it has to have also a leadership area here. Yes, the citizens are using it, they will use it, but is it enough to be global or European champions unless some kind of a leadership pushes this as a strong kind of project of the country or project of the economy, or that was my meaning, because I started from the AE labs around the country and so on. This and it comes back to what you were saying. So I'm just saying we kind of agree, but
we're having a French debate.
Exactly,
it's a debate where we actually agree.
Exactly. What I was saying is that we don't have enough capital in research. We agree with that.
Yeah.
Yes. We are not one of the wealthiest country in terms of private capital. Therefore, to support this new technology to become again European or global champions, and the state is practically almost non-present in that. So,
but we're one of the richest in human capital on this specific topic.
Exactly. In the region, we have the biggest kind of data, because we are 20 million, not 7 million as Bulgarians or Hungarians and so on. So we have an advantage. This is why kind of the state has to push on, either with money, either to access, to open the markets of their data, to at least have something more than. That was the meaning of my push.
Like Radek was showing, to go from right to left, It's like our first concern is Europe now to become a global champion if it's possible, because it's way behind. And then Romania is like way behind, So, I mean, we have a lot of human capital indeed, but I guess, and we need to leverage that, but I guess in terms of private capital, we are still lagging behind.
Okay, one last question from me, and then we'll open to the audience. We are talking about Europe, we are talking about national. Should private investors be more involved in shaping national or EU level AI policies?
Why not? If we wanna, this is what I heard. Do you wanna be a European champion or global one? We have to be there, right? Not just at the table, but come with something on the table.
Again, I think it's very important also to see and to put some metrics into this championship. Because I think that currently we are playing on the rules of the United States, where capital and capital gain is the most important. It is important because in order to solve a problem, the philosophy is to build a business, and a sustainable one, with investors and pure-blooded investors that are looking for returns. But I think that, again, one of the important metrics when it comes to AI, and with this very fast-paced, we might lose control of it, and then it will become something that we don't want to. I guess individuals are important, every person, and then this is why regulation, I think, I'm one of the guys that it's for certain types of regulations, not so bureaucratically as they look today, but I think that technology should be regulated in some manner.
My brain is literally foggy about this subject, and I'll explain why. I profoundly dislike regulation. However, I dislike Peter Thiel and J.D. Vance even more. So I have a very hard time.
We're on the same page, see?
I have a very hard. There's a war going on in my brain right now.
Was on Earth.
So, and I'm going to tie this a little bit to your previous answer, if you'll allow me. You know what? I think venture capitalists and people like myself should not be in politics at all. Venture capital and public policy are two very different worlds. Venture capital is not inclusive. It's supposed to be exclusive. You're choosing few out of the many that you invest in, where politics is inclusive. It's about everyone. It's supposed to be about everyone, right? Venture capital is about strong convictions loosely held. So I'm pretty strongly against regulation, but the points that Cosmin is making are actually pretty valid. So in a deeper conversation with him, after 1 hour and a couple of glasses of wine for me, for him none, because he doesn't drink, then I will change my mind. Okay. Venture capital is about strong convictions loosely held. Politics is about fuzzy convictions strongly held. Like, people are good. That's a fuzzy conviction, right? What's good? What are people, I would ask, but whatever. Overvalued these days. But you see my point about, like, should I play a role in regulation? I wouldn't want me playing a role in regulation, honestly.
I don't regulation affects all the businesses and everything.
But it does affect all citizens.
Yes,
right?
All citizens and businesses, and even the way the capital is deployed and everything. So I think it's not a choice at the end of the day.
I don't like that we fell into the self-fulfilling prophecy, and we're still talking about that you know, US innovates, China imitates, Europe regulates. And we kind of fell into this loop where we think that it's always valid. I think we're regulating to some extent because we got burned a few times. If you read Shoshana Zuboff's Age of Surveillance Capitalism about social media, amazing book, I recommend it if you haven't. This is an American academic, not an European one, explaining why, you know, the extraction of data, of personal data, serves some economic model of Google and Meta and so on. It's an amazing book, and it explains why we shouldn't make the same mistake again, the mistake that we did with social media, which I kindly remind you in 2010 and 2011 was responsible for sparking the Arab Spring, which was an amazing thing. Remember how great Twitter was? Anyone? Before it became the shithole that it is today?
No, I can't.
You can't remember?
No. I never had one.
You never had an account, sorry, yeah. Okay. But you're a journalist, you remember, right?
Of course.
Yeah. So, but then we saw the dark side of that technology, and we decided it's better to regulate and to have a say into this. So at some level, at some intellectual level, I can agree with it. I just don't like it. But viscerally, I don't necessarily like it. But at some intellectual level, yeah, we should get involved.
I was thinking when you guys were speaking, it's an analogy. I don't know if it's the right comparison. Do you think realistically that, I mean, let's rephrase it, the context. For many years, Romania was top in Europe at fastest internet connection. Coming from very behind to first, because we implemented technology later and better technology. Do you think there is a chance we do this with AI as well? We have very poor public infrastructure, very low to none digitalization. I still have to give Xerox papers to school for signing up kids and fill in stuff manually. Do you think that we can get to a very advanced AI suddenly, jumping a few levels?
Well, I was selling Connex in 1997, and Connex, the current Vodafone, was, and it was not about the internet at the time. It was the fastest growing telecom company with mobile phones adoption in the world. And then we had UiPath with the growest turnover growth in technology in just 1.5 years, from 5 million to 175 million in just 1.5 or 2 years. And I think my colleague knows better, probably the figures. And I think that there is a good chance that we can be, because I think that Romanian people is a happy early adopter of very cutting edge technologies. So there is a good chance.
I'm going to say no, and then I'm going to be proven wrong, hopefully, by somebody. I think the barrier compared to what Cosmin was describing, maybe. Listen, when we did the telecom, you're right, we were among the first countries to deploy certain types of infrastructure, but there was a reason for that, why Romania and Poland were the countries. So the investors looking to test those technologies, they needed countries with critical size and critical mass to do that. So they chose Romania, Poland, a couple of others around the world, and we benefited from that immensely. I think given the capital structure, the capital expenditure structure of deploying AI, I don't know that anybody in France or in Finland or in Sweden is going to rush to deploy it in Romania or Poland as they did with telecom. It's not the same thing. So that's part of my reason for saying no. And the second part of my reason for saying no, and I stop there with the pessimism on this subject and hopefully hand over to somebody optimistic. Public service infrastructure is more difficult to change the larger the country is, which is a reason why Moldova has better digital public services than Romania, because it's a smaller country, and Estonia, of course. Estonia is an example that we all know, and it's the reason why the United States have a very shitty digital public service infrastructure, right? It's a very large country. They don't necessarily work well. Unless you have, like China, like a complete top-down infrastructure and deployment of things, it doesn't work very easily. That's my opinion. I don't think we can what's the term? Jump, like leap like a frog again. And Romania we're the best at being the first ones at something by standing still, I don't think with this one it's going to work. Not like that, not by standing still. That's what I mean. So no, in that sense, not by standing still.
You said you wanted to hand it over to somebody more optimistic, so just want to add a little bit here. Normally, we will probably leapfrog a bit, but not to be champions. We have to, but leapfrogging in this area means we have to catch up the other guys. So probably we will. In order to, again, be champions, besides what was mentioned here, we need to have human resources, the pool of human resources larger than maybe some other countries, better prepared in that area, and again, with a lot of ecosystems around it to fuel that. Unfortunately, even if we are really strong in technology, the number of students kind of joining technology fields per let's say per 100,000 in terms of inhabitants, we are again tracking in this field. We are probably among the last 5 countries in Europe. So we need human capital for that, not just the big size and data. And again, probably this will be done and be accelerated, but I would say we're not going to become champions as with a cable and with a mobile phone penetration.
Hello. And going back to regulation, sorry about that. You know that the US has less regulation, and they won because their economy is much better than Europe, as far as I know. This happens also with the AI. So what is the solution? Because maybe we should negotiate with them something to have less regulations, or what is the solution? Because if we stay with regulation, okay, it's ethical, it's good for the people, but it's not only Europe, it's the whole world. And if they move and we stay, I think it's an issue.
I think this is where it is a question of leadership, if you ask me. I can answer this through the lens of leadership and not technical readiness. and to be fair, I'm drawing inspiration from something I read and I researched today. I don't think regulation is the reason we're lagging behind. I think the reason we Europeans in general, not just Romanians, are lagging behind on certain, especially in the technology arena, AI included, is we're kind of like being jerks with each other, you know, between us Europeans. Like, we Romanians kind of, you know, like to make fun of the Hungarians and the Bulgarians. They like to make fun of us, French of the English of the French. Everybody makes fun of the Dutch, of course. I mean, there's kind of this dynamic playing, you know, within Europe. And even the fact that I made a joke about it and you laughed proves that this is what's happening. So this kind of hyper-local somehow patriotism, and by the way, in Romania, it's Bucharest makes fun of Cluj, Cluj makes fun of Iași, Iași makes fun of Constanța, and so on and so forth. So everywhere there's like this hyper-local patriotism. However, if something comes out of Silicon Valley, it's amazing. I mean, if it's out of Silicon Valley, it's by default amazing. For me, this is not a question of regulation. For me, this is a question of mindset and leadership and inspirational leadership. Do we have leaders who have the capacity, you know, not to pick on anybody who got elected 2 days ago specifically, but we love leaders who are good at math and good at counting pennies. That's what we love in Europe right now. When we say hold leaders accountable, we mean we want to know what they did with our pennies, you know, with the dollars and pennies and euros and pennies that we paid to them. That's how we hold them accountable. That's not what leadership is. Leadership is not counting pennies. Leadership is inspiring people. And I think the moment when we will have in Europe leaders who can genuinely inspire people into building, people like you, into building amazing businesses that can scale globally, I think that will be a better day, regulation or no regulation. And I feel Cosmin wants to take the regulation pitch right now.
No, I mean, I totally agree that not the regulation is the regulation is not really the cause. And I have another theory than Marius. Of course, all what he said is true because we have culturally, we are different with every country. So United States we have 2,000 years with different, in Europe with different states with different cultures. United States have few hundred years with the same culture and basically the same people. It's a very large country. People that created the United States have been coming, and I was going in the 2000 in United States, and I saw people that I felt always that they're always ready to go with the luggage. They never had roots, you know, there. So I think this is something that also psychological in the psychometrics, when you're looking into the way deals are performed in commercial partnerships between in the United States economy, it goes very fast. And this actually was also a very good environment for building up venture capital. That in Silicon Valley was going into a kind of a waterfall model. And then, of course, having a large market, having very large POCs, having very large, everything was large. 20 years ago, European economy and United States economy were equal. And then now it's United States economy, it's much larger. And if you're looking to the top 10 companies, they are technology companies. And that's another thing. Why do we aim to have such a large economy? We should aim to have a nice life and satisfaction, even if it's made out of jokes about the neighbors.
Food for thought. Speaking of food for thought, could you share a food for thought at the end of it, just to wrap things up?
I'll try to wrap this answer. So
Thanks.
what I heard is that we need the United States of Europe because of the size, and it should help. Previously I worked 10 years for the biggest e-commerce company in the region, and when we wanted to look at another country, it was more about, okay, so another language, other regulations, other authorities that we have to deal with, other type of content, other type of structure, blah, blah, blah. And then you would look at a business plan that would tell you, so if I'm trying to conquer a country where the competition is strong, what's the ceiling of profitability after 5 or 10 years? Oh, it doesn't make sense. So one of the answers is probably the bold vision of some guys that are going to say we have to become a bigger market in order to fight with the bigger markets and not have only an umbrella of regulation from Brussels, but on top of that, there is the local flavor of legislation, because a lot of people from the state wants to add more to localize the kind of need and so on. So the regulation means to kind of cut almost 1.5 levels from the 2 existing ones, and that would help with, that would happen probably if we have the kind of United States of Europe. So there are different answers there, but really strong segmentation of markets with different kind of cultural background and customer habits and regulation is a pain in it, something. And yeah.
Let me tell you what we'll do next. We'll wrap up, Cosmin. Yeah. Let's start with the movement that you're all speaking about. A last food for thought.
I just wanted to say that I read yesterday an interesting article on the topic with the United States of Europe. I encourage you to look at it in Chris Skinner's blog. The Financer, it's his name, and Chris Skinner, it's a well-known figure, and he makes a comparison with the Switzerland cantons and the way they actually have created the united legislation, regulation, and everything. And I mean, there is a hope for Europe also.
Thank you. Cool. Whatever we can celebrate, everyone in his mind. We definitely need to thank Robert, Marius, Cosmin, and Lucian.
Thank you so much, guys.